Welcome back in to Stay Tuned. We are back here and we are staying tuned for some DC discussion. We're going to be talking about anything and everything. We're going to be talking about Elseworlds, everything that James Gunn is bringing to the universe coming in this later summer. And then, of course, what Zack Snyder has brought and maybe some older kind of stuff. We'll see what happens. But I have Brayden with me, who's got a lot of extensive notes. We saw before we started, there's a lot of notes. We're going to see where that takes us. And then we have Mike, who, of course, just loves the Snyderverse and anything that came out of it. So we're going to get it right into it right away as quick as we can. So what do we want to start with? That's the thing, is there's so much that you could talk about with DC and what's going on.
I think we definitely need to address the Snyderverse first. It's going to be a quicker conversation and to set the timeline. So, Mikey, you know this better than the three of us. Give us a quick explanation on Snyder's original plan so that way we can talk about his naive thought process.
If I would have known this when we were open, then I would have really actually done my research.
Just give it to us in layman's term.
If I remember correctly, essentially the whole purpose of the Snyderverse was it's opened with the Man of Steel, which is did, and then it would move on to Batman vs Superman, which is exactly what it did. And at the ending of BVS, for those who haven't watched it, Superman dies.
Yes.
Then it would go into in BVS, we also get a glimpse of the Nightmare universe or the Nightmare timeline.
Oh yeah.
And we go into Justice League. Superman's dead. Batman learns of an incoming threat, and he needs to stop it, but he also realizes that he needs Superman. He realizes Superman was actually a good guy. He was hope, the embodiment of hope, I should say, for mankind. So he works together with Aquaman, Cyborg, Flash, and Wonder Woman to bring Superman back to life, which they successfully do. And essentially, the big threat was Steppenwolf. Again, all of this actually happened. It was really the other part. So
After
eventually,
this,
somewhere along the line, I believe in the second one, the second would have been the second Justice League movie, Superman fights Darkseid, and he has to have Batman stay back and protect Lois Lane, and Darkseid kind of kills her. Or Batman falls in love with Lois, and Lois dies eventually, and it kind of gets Superman angry, but it also gets him angry enough where he can be like this. Darkseid can tempt him with the anti-life equation and whatnot. So eventually, Superman gets controlled by the anti-life equation and becomes a puppet for Darkseid, and that's what we see in the Nightmare universe, the Nightmare timeline.
Which is, for people who don't really know the Nightmare, it's the stuff from the Batman vs Superman Ultimate Cut, and then it's the stuff with the Jared Leto Joker in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. It's that apocalyptic sort of setting.
Yeah, it's the apocalypse because pretty much mostly everyone's dead or turned into parademons. There are a few survivors under a unit, almost like the regime from Injustice, a military force for Superman. So the Nightmare, there's a group of survivors for the Nightmare timeline, and it's Jared Leto Joker, Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Mera, Aquaman's wife, the Queen of Atlantis, Mera, right, and Deathstroke. And they are going out to fight, or to find and fight Superman and stop him. And quite frankly, I don't really know too much about what would be the ending. I just know that much.
I think that's how far it went. I think that was it. That was how far he kind of took it before he then had to stop with.
Well, there was supposed to be League. The whole thing is it was just supposed to be a 3-movie universe. It was supposed to be a Zack Snyder trilogy, and so that's really what I was getting at when I said talk about Zack Snyder's naive mindset. Is that he came to DC and said, "This is what I want to do," and thought that they would approve a legitimate franchise during all this Marvel success of just 3 movies, starting with the Justice League.
Well, it would have been something more along the lines of he didn't just plan 3 movies. He planned, I believe, 5. It was Man of Steel, BVS, and then the Justice League trilogy. But he took into account other movies like the Aquaman movie, Wonder Woman, all those other movies. He just didn't want a large, expansive universe because he didn't want it to keep going on. Kind of as we see with Marvel right now, where the quality is dipping. He didn't really want that, from my understanding. And truth is, if you want to watch another video based on what Zack Snyder had planned, I years ago when it first came out, it was the Comic Historian channel. They had made a video about it. So they kind of have it, and they kind of discuss it a bit, and they go more in depth with it. But
so I think the big thing that we need to look at is I think they kind of didn't get the best cards dealt to them in terms of directors, for starters, and then that led into not the best writers and not the best casting choices that we saw, because we all agree Henry Cavill, great Superman.
Hold up. Okay, casting choices,
not all of them were good,
with the exception of, I would argue, only really 2, and that was Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg would have been a fantastic choice, just not as Lex. And
he probably
could have been. I'm talking about in general. Ezra Miller was not a great Flash.
And Ezra Miller. Those are the only 2 that
Gal Gadot was not a great Wonder Woman.
I think Gal Gadot was phenomenal.
I think
Gal Gadot was phenomenal as
I think she was a good Wonder Woman.
I think she was solid enough. She was worse in Justice League than she was in Wonder Woman. But then you have Jason Momoa. He wasn't the best Aquaman looking back. They kind of made him into this big dumb doofus by the end of the second movie.
I think it's hard because Aquaman's a character that the way that is portrayed in comics and stuff is
it's completely different than the way he is in these movies.
The only same thing is the suit and the trident.
So
honestly,
Jason Momoa's Aquaman is more on the lines of the Aquaman that we see in the 90s and then the early 2000s, Justice League animated series. He's a little bit more beefier.
He's more rugged.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. At one point in the 90s and in the TV show, he loses his hand and it's replaced by a harpoon. I was really looking forward to a harpoon hand Aquaman, which we never got, so now I'm very upset.
I think the best things out of it were Henry Cavill's Superman.
Yes.
Although I don't like the
While
direction.
The movies may not have been the best, he was a great character. He was a great actor for Superman. But even his character direction,
the movies took. But I enjoyed what he was able to bring to Superman.
Right.
And then I think Ben Affleck as Batman. I think
Ben Affleck
was a good pick.
Very good Batman, but not everyone, including myself, agrees with some of the steps that were taken with that character. But
do you like that? Do you like that Batfleck kills?
And so this is where we're going to go for this, because Mikey's immediately going to jump in and defend, but he needs to let me get this out.
Okay.
Zack Snyder should not have made Batman kill in Batman vs Superman, knowing full and well he was never going to get that Batman solo movie out that was going to explain how different this universe was.
Okay.
The fact that he made that decision is part of the downfall of the universe. Now Mikey can go.
All right. He was expecting the solo, Batman movie.
He should not have actually. Okay. This is where I say he was too naive in thinking the studio was going to allow certain things that go with his creative vision, knowing how independent he was.
Okay. Well, the problem wasn't. The problem was the fact that they realized they thought that he was too dark. So halfway through, probably towards the end, not halfway, but towards the end of filming of Justice League, a family crisis for Zack Snyder arose, and they decided to replace him with Joss Whedon, and then we kind of get this horrible mix of tones, right? Joss Whedon tried to make it a little more comedic, like he did with the Avengers films, which failed because it clashed with the dark, brooding nature of Snyder's universe. If Justice League would have been released, I can't say that it would have been it would have had great reviews, but I still think we would have gotten the live action.
You also have to remember Batman vs Superman, very terrible box office performance.
I was gonna say, I think the biggest thing is that even if he was expecting it, I think he also needed to take a line where he goes, all right, what do I need to do to make sure that this movie actually becomes a thing? Because
I don't think he took the business into account at all when he was making these movies.
That's the thing, is that if you're a movie director, you got to understand that you're in a business, and that, yes, you are a movie director.
Movies are always a business first.
Liberties, but he can't have as much liberties as he thinks he has. I think that I would have enjoyed the Batfleck
I
film.
think it could have been a good movie.
And I definitely think it could have been a good one. And I think they should have greenlit it, even if the Batman v Superman movie did as bad as it did in the box office. I still think they should give it one, because Marvel is based off of movies that also don't do well. Like, Iron Man 2 did good in theaters, but it didn't do great. Like, they could have easily just stopped there and been like, oh, well, it didn't do good, so we're going to stop.
But like that and like Thor the Dark World, which also did not do great, have huge implications for the rest of the universe with the
I definitely
story
think
and characters.
That it's more of a Snyder was also wrong, but also the business was wrong in it. And that with both of them being as wrong as they were and so incredibly wrong, it led to the downfall that we have now.
Well, the only thing is, when it comes to Snyder's experience with directing comic book movies and with working with Warner Brothers, they gave him a lot of creative leeway with projects like Watchmen and 300. So he was going in expecting the exact same thing. I do think that was a problem. However, he already made these two movies, which I don't really know too much about 300's box office success. I don't think it did great.
It's okay. It's not
I think it performed as well as you would think it would.
Yeah.
I think I can tell you that Watchmen didn't, because Alan Moore was very against a Watchmen adaptation. However, Watchmen and 300 have become kind of these cult movies where they have a following with them. I'll be the first one to admit that I don't think that Snyder's iteration of Watchmen is in anywhere perfect, but I do think it's good for a live-action Watchmen adaptation. I want to watch the animated movies that they just came with out last year. I own them, but I haven't had a chance to watch them yet. So, I think that he was going in making these movies expecting the same amount of leeway that he had with Watchmen and 300, and they just didn't give it to him. I think if they would have let it wait, if they just waited a bit, I think like going in now, we would have had more of that cult following that we would have gotten with his other two movies.
I also think if he had started it now during this kind of lull in Marvel, things would have been a lot different.
True.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing also to understand, though, and Mike, you said it, was that 300 and Watchmen are...
People didn't even know 300 was a comic book movie. Let's put that out there.
Didn't. There's that, but then also they're such, they're small franchises. Like, they don't really... No offense to whoever really likes them. They're not franchises that are that big. They are not comic books that are that big in general. DC was, or is, the biggest comic book thing ever. Batman and Superman are the most popular comic book characters aside from Spider-Man. And they're both DC, and those were the first two characters that he decided to tackle, which I think is fine. But I think in that case, if he wanted to have them as like their own movies, I think he needed to take more out of like a Christopher Nolan book where you take Batman and you just make 3 Batman movies. Like, don't try and bring in Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern.
Right. You need groundwork Flash, before you go into the massive projects. You can't start with Superman, Batman vs Superman, and then Justice League, and then try and go back to make Batman.
Yeah. If he did a Superman trilogy like Nolan, and then maybe he wanted that to lead in to something with like the Justice League, I think it would have been better if he also maybe came down with the business and sat down and was like, all right, I'm going to make the Justice League movies, and this is how I'm going to want them to go, and this is how it's going to happen. I need you to direct movies that is like Wonder Woman, that is going to make this make sense.
Well,
go. I think that was their main problem.
Well, the other thing is, though, they remember that these characters aren't some that really need a lot of explaining. Everyone knows who Batman and Superman is. Almost everyone knows who Wonder Woman is, Aquaman. Where we look back at how he had this franchise, this universe, and we compare it to how Marvel did theirs. The Avengers weren't anywhere close to Marvel's biggest group, right? The X-Men were.
Yeah.
Right.
So not
and they had been out for
years
years at that point.
Yeah, I mean, although they were, I may be wrong, but I believe Iron Man debuted in the 60s,
2008?
the 1960s.
No,
I'm talking about the actual characters.
I have no
His
idea.
comic book debut was the 1960s.
60s, yeah.
I believe it was the 1960s. So here we have up until he was already around for almost 50 years before, 40 or 50 years before this movie came out, and he really wasn't that popular of a character.
No, he wasn't.
No, it was more of the Incredible Hulk and Captain America.
Of the two, Marvel.
Those were mostly the big Marvel ones because they didn't have much they could go off of other than that. Because Spider-Man didn't come in until later.
Well, yeah, but of the two Avengers, right? Cap and
right.
the Hulk were the two biggest ones. But I'm blanking on his name now. He plays Happy Hogan. Come on, what's his name?
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau, yeah. Jon Favreau actually had to lay the groundwork down for these characters, whereas Snyder realized he didn't have to. So that's why he kind of went in with this mentality. Now, yeah, he took a much darker approach on these characters, which he could have benefited from some groundwork. I think that the Batfleck movie should have came out before BVS. I think it should have been Man of Steel, the Batfleck movie, then BVS.
Yes.
I agree.
I think if we would have done that, the mixed reviews of the...
I think Batman vs. Superman wouldn't have flopped for starters because people just saw Ben Affleck as Superman come out of nowhere and they were like, what the heck is this?
Well, yeah. Well, I think that Man of Steel, the mixed reviews of Man of Steel would have been like, okay, whatever. But then here we have this solo Batman film with Deathstroke as a main villain, starring Ben Affleck, who, people would be like, well, why is Ben Affleck Batman? But they would just kind of be like, whatever, let's go see it. Right. And from what we know of this story, I think it could have been probably one of, if not the best, Batman movies to ever come out. From what we know of, it may have been horrible.
It had potential,
but it had a lot of potential.
Definitely, yeah.
So did. I think if it hit its potential and it was as good as we hope it was going to be, then I think people would have gone into this movie gone into BVS going, Batman was phenomenal, Man of Steel was pretty good. Let's see where BVS is, and I think that also would have resolved a lot of confusion in BVS as well. And then I think BVS
a big
would have done better.
Was they introduced Batman and Wonder Woman in the same movie. Nobody really wanted Wonder Woman to show up, and then somehow out of those three characters, the next person to get a movie was Wonder Woman. I think everybody was mostly upset about that, and I
think that's what lost
a little confused.
I think if you gave Batman his own solo movie first, introducing Wonder Woman in BVS wouldn't have been as bad.
Yes, especially because Wonder Woman's the only one who got a project after that, because Superman's dead and Batman didn't get anything.
And the fact that Wonder Woman got a sequel too, that's even worse.
Okay,
that was post-Downfall, so I don't count anything after that.
Woman, I think the first Wonder Woman movie is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's good. I can't
is good at being dark and keeping the tone that he was trying to do. Because the villain is very dark in that movie. Like she's creating all these chemical warfare agents, and then you have the God of War as the actual villain. So I thought it was pretty good, but then you have Aquaman come out, and he's this big dumb doofus who doesn't want anything to do with being an Atlantean. Even by the end of the movie, he still doesn't want to be Aquaman.
I actually love the Aquaman movie, the James Wan Aquaman movie.
No, the first one, it's funny, but it doesn't feel like it fits in that universe at all. It doesn't feel like that character deserves a spot in the Snyderverse.
I think that it really would have. I think that if everything went the way Snyder wanted it to go, I think it would have done a good job showing that this universe can have kind of different overall themes in each movie.
My thing
not
is
just an incredibly dark universe.
My thing is that he should have been more of like the guy we see in the DCAMU movies, where he's more of like a meathead, but in the sense of like a meathead, I just want to rule Atlantis, because he shouldn't have the same personality as Ezra Miller's Flash. That was what ticked me off, was they were the same person in two different bodies.
I have a lot of issues with the direction they took with the Flash in general. I don't think they should have went with this kind of Flash that they went with.
No.
In my opinion, Flash should have been a more serious character.
No, because Flash is supposed to be nerdy, smart, and socially awkward. He was socially awkward. He wasn't really a smart Flash, despite being a CSI. He wasn't even a CSI at the time. He had just started his job by the time the Flash movie started. So he wasn't that smart. He was socially awkward, and he wasn't funny.
Yeah, I mean...
And he also, didn't know what he was doing the entire time. It was like he had just gotten his powers the day before the Justice League movie started. He didn't know anything about, how to run and carry momentum, in the way they choreographed everything, and I think that's more of Snyder's fault, obviously, than Ezra Miller's.
Okay.
But Ezra Miller still didn't I don't think he's a good actor in
play
those
the
movies.
Role well, yeah, no.
But I think that the Jason Momoa Aquaman would have worked well if we would have gotten the full expansive universe. And they made him...
I'd agree with that.
If they started with almost a more lighthearted movie, and then progressively, in maybe his trilogy, it gets darker and darker and darker. And that's honestly why I think...
It kind of did that in The Lost Kingdom. Kind of.
It did, yeah.
Or a lot, but it kind of started that way.
And that's why I think that...
But that's where it didn't matter.
The whole harpoon hand Aquaman would have been very fitting if they would have followed that direction.
Right, because then you would have had a super buff guy, and you could have had this attachment on his hand.
Right.
But again, everything went to crap really quick. When did Suicide Squad come out? Was that before or after Justice League?
2016.
2016 was...
Okay, so
we had... This was what,
that
2014?
piece of crap
we're not going to talk
immediately... So we had a box office failure with BVS. We had the Suicide Squad, which is horrible.
Yep.
And then we have Justice League. And then what came out immediately after Justice League?
I think it was Wonder Woman, but I don't think it was immediately after. But I think it was...
It was either that or Aquaman was next man up.
Aquaman was 2018.
So it would have been Wonder Woman.
I think it's Wonder Woman. And then the Suicide Squad.
2017.
And then
Suicide
Aquaman.
Squad was 2018, I thought. The
James Gunn one was
2016.
2020.
Oh, the James Gunn one was 2020.
That's
or
what
2021, but I believe 2020.
2020, 2021.
Suicide Squad, the what's his name?
David Ayer's one was 2020.
Yeah, his was 2016.
And that was horrible. I don't think that was initially supposed to be in Snyder's universe. I think that was a Warner Brother decision.
I don't know.
I think it was too.
So Wonder Woman came out before Justice League. Aquaman came out afterwards, and then we had got Shazam.
Justice League was 2017, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Wonder Woman came out before
2016?
that in the same year.
Oh,
So
it
it's Man of Steel,
2017. So
Man of Steel 2013,
BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League. So that's quote-unquote Phase 1, which doesn't set up a lot.
That's terrible. That's
then we got
terrible.
Aquaman,
again, but let's leave out
Shazam,
Suicide Squad.
Birds of Prey, 1984, and then the
Suicide Squad.
And then it was the Snyder Cut came out in 2021.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal movie.
I thought it was
then we
over
have
COVID, though.
It was.
2021 was technically COVID.
2021, yeah,
Sure.
still really
I
COVID.
think it was early 2021.
I watched it at home on my phone.
Yeah.
I know it was during COVID.
So
and then after that,
Zack
the first
Snyder's.
one to come out after the Snyder Cut was The Suicide Squad. It was the only actual movie to come out that year.
Which,
Then Black Adam, Shazam 2, The Flash, Blue Beetle, Aquaman 2. So, really, I mean, Shazam, the first one, it was funny the first time I watched it, but it has zero rewatchability now. I tried to rewatch it. I can't.
Which
one? The first Shazam.
yeah.
I can't rewatch it. It was funny the first time, but I can't rewatch it. So
feels-
everything after
that does
that just
not
went
feel
straight downhill.
6
Aside
years
from James Gunn, everything went straight downhill
Yeah.
after Aquaman.
I mean,
I think the only thing that I will argue with you there is that Blue Beetle was okay.
It was the
was
character
not
was
as good
decent.
as
The script was
Aquaman.
horrible.
I actually
But
still...
I think it was a 5 out of 10.
The character, I gave it a 6. I thought the character was good and the CGI was good, but the script and the supporting cast was not good.
That's the only one I will argue that is not The Suicide Squad or Aquaman.
Everything else was bad. That one I won't say was bad, but it wasn't good.
So
I never watched Birds of Prey. Apparently that's
horrible.
It's terrible.
decent.
It's god awful.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't make sense. Like, the plot line genuinely is very convoluting on itself, and it's a short movie, so it just doesn't make sense.
They completely wasted Ewan McGregor as an actor in the film, and then they went on and completely disgraced Cassandra Cain, which is my biggest issue with the film.
Huntress and Black Canary.
I can even ignore all those characters. Disgracing Cassandra Cain, in my opinion, is the worst thing. They took her from being this awesome assassin turned vigilante working with Batman to, hey, here's a really whiny teenage street punk who you just want to honestly get hit with a car in the movie because she's that annoying.
And honestly, as much as we like Harley Quinn in being the only good thing about the first Suicide Squad, and then liking her in James Gunn's, she's not even that interesting in Birds of Prey. She's very whiny and depressed the whole time. And, like, you don't have any empathy for her.
Here's a question for you. Does Peacemaker go in the DCEU, or is it James Gunn's universe now?
Season 1 was Snyder.
Okay.
Or Elseworlds. Doesn't matter. Season 2 is allegedly in the DCU, in James Gunn's DCU. But it is not a direct sequel season. But so basically, it's like 2 different shows under the same name. Season 1 is the old universe, Season 2 is the new universe, but it's not a sequel, even though he's keeping Viola Davis and John Cena, which I'll actually talk about in one of the projects that he announced in his initial video when he put out.
Right. My question, I guess this can lead into the new stuff with James Gunn, is The Suicide Squad, I think, was the best movie out of all of the Snyder Cut movies.
I would listen to that argument.
I think that is the best movie.
Which I don't even love on rewatch.
No, I don't. I think that it's only good to rewatch in, like, the first act.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second act is...
I think it gets very boring once they try and take them seriously. Yeah,
when you try and take them serious. Third act is kind of weird, but it's not terrible. But it's just like there's a lot going on. Which, I mean, it's the Suicide Squad. What else can you expect? Mm-hmm. But, like, I would say it's the Suicide Squad, and then the next one after that, Wonder Woman? Maybe?
I would say that there are legitimately 3 good movies that came out of that universe, and it's because like we said, Blue Beetle was kind of fun but not necessarily good. I think Aquaman was fun but not necessarily good or great. I think Wonder Woman, the Snyder Cut, and The Suicide Squad are the only good movies, good or better, to come out of that universe. And we all have different opinions on, like, where we would rate them and whatever, but, like, those are the only 3 decent projects that came out.
I'd agree.
I'm not.
I would put Man of Steel in there too, actually. I would say 4. I know you don't love it, but I would say Man of Steel is in there.
I will not defend the DCU. I think overall, it's more bad than it is good. However, I do really, really love Zack Snyder's movies because, as somebody who grew up with DC characters, almost every iteration outside of the comics that I have seen, whether that be a TV show or a movie, it's always been very, very light to, like, the more lighter.
Which this was a good comics. Tone that I'm hoping we see in the James Gunn era.
So, seeing this dark version of these characters that we do see in the comics, but not that often, was refreshing to me. So that's why I love it so much, because it feels like Zack Snyder's Justice League movies, the Snyder Cut, feels like the 2001 animated Justice League show, but darker, more for a mature audience. So I absolutely love it. Right, the few movies, I think that his movies, all of his movies are good. Even BVS, the theatrical version.
I think the theatrical version is not good. I think the ultimate cut is decent.
Sorry, not the theatrical version. Yeah, the ultimate cut. I think I like Man of Steel. I love BVS, the ultimate cut. I love Snyder Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I do really enjoy Suicide Squad. I like Aquaman, and I do like Wonder Woman, but for the most part, every other movie...
Like, the gap between what we would say the lowest good one is and then the best of the bads is immense. Like, the gap is very noticeable between quality.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good... do we have any more points for this universe?
I think that if Snyder was given time from Warner Bros.
I do think they rushed him.
I think that this could be a very different conversation, and we very well could not be seeing the DCU.
Mm-hmm.
But it's out of his control now. It's
over
12 years in the future, but it's definitely one of those things that you have to go, not only was it the director's fault that some of these movies aren't good, you ultimately have to look at it as studios can ruin movies like that. And this is what Warner Brothers did.
I don't entirely blame him.
They wanted to so bad contend with Marvel as quickly as possible, because Marvel at this point, 2013, already had Avengers come out, which was great, and then they continued to just roll the ball and keep going. And then as they had more movies come out in like 2016 and then 2017, that's where they were doing Infinity War. So They just kept wanting to do more as quickly as possible, and they couldn't do it. And so it bit them in the foot. They had to, eventually they sold, and now it's like Warner Brothers is like half owned by Disney or something. Whatever.
If Warner Brothers played the long game like James Gunn is doing right now, they would very much be in right now. They would very much be
if they had a little bit more of connection with Snyder,
because they would have been starting during the peak of Marvel. They would have been starting right then, which means Marvel takes that dip, DC would have come up, and we would have seen DC overtake the movie and TV market very quickly. But they wanted to play catch up, and it bit them in the butt.
Hit them in the I completely agree. So that's my piece.
Yeah, I think that would be a good place to end the DCEU argument. But first, a word from this week's sponsor, Movie Raider. It is a great place to just put movies out for the public and rate them.
This doesn't exist.
I am a certified critic for Movie Raider.
It's not a real thing.
If you're interested, just go to www.movieraider.com.
If that's a real website, we're not affiliated with them.
MOVIER8R.com.
If that's a real website or some Russian scam account, we're not affiliated with them. Okay. So going into James Gunn's DCU, I did a lot of research for everything that he announced in that initial video when he and Peter Safran became co-CEOs.
What year was that? 22?
I can pull it up on my YouTube history because I just watched the video, so I'll tell you how long ago he posted it.
I'll give you this quick story. I remember I was in my car. It was at the point of the day where I had a study hall and I didn't need to be in school. So I went and sat in my car, and I was just sitting there waiting for my brother to get out. And I remember I was on my phone, and I just get a notification on my YouTube from DC Studios, and it's just like, I forget what it was titled.
The
like
official title is Chapter 1 - Gods and Monsters DC Studios DC, and it's just a picture of James Gunn on the...
It is white. Yep.
That's all it is.
And so I remember clicking on that and immediately being excited, him running down everything that we're getting in this year, next year, and then what is to be announced.
Right.
I was so excited, and now...
So he posted that video January 31st, 2023. So it's been...
sounds right.
It's been not technically 2 years. It's been...
January 21st, you said?
No, January 31st. So New Year's Eve 2023. So it's been just over
2 years and 11 days.
You said January 31st.
Oh, January 31st. You're right.
It's been 2 years.
I was thinking December 31st. Yeah, it's been
2 years and 11 days.
Since he made that initial video. And we have gotten an animated TV series.
We've gotten nothing.
That just came out a month ago.
Yeah, just came
2
out
months ago.
We've gotten absolutely nothing.
So, do I blame him? No. Because he still had to put out Guardians, remember? He was not officially separated himself from Marvel.
Yeah.
So I don't entirely blame him. So technically, in like the year that he's been working on DC, we've gotten one thing. Whatever.
I don't think they should have released
at
that
the time
when
of
they
the
did.
video that he posted. Though he had already written Creatures Commandos, he said, and he was actively writing Superman when he put that video out. So he was in the process.
I don't like that placement of the video. I think they should have waited, in my opinion.
So for anyone who doesn't know, they're going to do Phase 1, but they gave it a name.
Chapter.
They're calling it Chapter 1: Gods and Monsters. I have a problem with this. One, you gave it a name, which means you're locked into certain projects. People are going to expect certain things. From what we've seen, we're not getting a lot of gods or monsters.
Well, that's where I then go, Brave and the Bold, why is that in Chapter 1?
The other thing is, the thing I do like is he said this is an 8 to 10 year plan. Marvel's Phase 1 was 6 movies in 4 years. It was 2 Iron Mans, a Hulk, a Captain America, a Thor, and the Avengers. In 4 years, they put out those movies from 2008 to 2012.
Isn't even recognized half the time.
And that was just Phase 1. We have a lot in this phase that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Say we haven't seen a lot of gods or monsters, but Creatures Commandos is practically the monster side of things.
That's all we're getting from monsters, it seems.
And as far as gods go, we've got Superman, right? You know, like the actual superheroes themselves in DC is really the gods, right? It's the superheroes.
And this is where we have problems with with Zack Snyder of portraying Superman as a god as opposed to a symbol of hope.
Yeah, but you also have to remember that, like, in DC, almost all of these, all of the superheroes feel godlike. Even Batman, they all do.
Right. But Batman, that's a whole discussion that we could launch ourselves into forever. So he said in that video, 8 to 10 years, and then he listed off 10 things, and he said this is part of it, not all of it. Number 1, we have Creatures Commandos. That's already come out. We don't need to talk about that. None of us have seen it because we don't have Max or haven't watched it. Second thing he announced was the Amanda Waller TV show. This just seems like an excuse for him to make a spin-off season of Peacemaker.
I'm sorry, we're getting an Amanda Waller TV show?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be Viola Davis. The writers for it are going to be Crystal Henry from Watchmen and Jeremy Carver from Doom Patrol. It just seems like Peacemaker season 2.5.
The shitty TV show Watchmen?
I don't know. Crystal Henry is one of the writers, so you figure that out.
I don't think... God damn it. I don't think he was on...
As he walks away, which nobody wants this show. We're supposed to be starting filming it this fall of 25 is when they're supposed to start filming it. Nobody wants it. Peacemaker has mixed reviews, and him wanting to... We talked about this last episode. He has trouble letting things go. He couldn't let go of Peacemaker. Instead of just making a new project with him, he had to make a season 2. It doesn't entirely make sense. This just seems like Peacemaker 2.5 because he said in that video, quote, she will be teaming up with members of the Peacemaker team. Why?
I think it's because... I think you're right. It's because he has a hard time letting go of things. But also, I feel like when he was making Peacemaker, there could have been discussion with James Gunn and Peter Safran.
He was making Peacemaker in the Dark Ages of the DCEU. I don't know why he thought this would be a sustainable project.
I don't know either.
Look, I hate to interrupt this. What was the guy's name again?
Crystal Henry. He's one of the writers on the show. Yeah. So he's either a writer for the Watchmen movie or the Watchmen animated thing. No, he's not
on the Watchmen movie. The Watchmen movie was... I just had it. David Hayter and Alex TSE?
It must be on that, though, because when he made this video 2 years ago, the animated thing didn't exist.
No, it wasn't the animated movie. No, I'm talking about the shitty TV show.
Oh, it's probably on that.
The HBO Max TV show.
Yeah, it's probably that because he's got the HBO connections with Peacemaker. And because Suicide Squad came out on HBO Max, it didn't come out in theaters because of COVID.
That has to be...
Yeah, and then Jeremy Carver, the creator of Doom Patrol.
This is going to be the worst TV show ever.
Yeah. So
then there was, Lanterns?
So I'm just going to go down the list of him.
Okay.
with the third thing he announced was Superman. We talked about that the last episode. Go listen to us talk about it. We went into a lot of detail. The fourth thing was the Lanterns TV show. He described it as a true detective style show of Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan kind of patrolling Earth, and then they find some mystery that they go into. When they originally announced this, Mikey and I know, were very confused because instead of like race swapping or doing anything, they age swapped and personality swapped these two characters. Hal Jordan has always been a very young, naive character. Jon Stewart has been an older, more monotone, I don't want to say emotionalist, but less giddy and showing. Yeah. So they decided to switch these characters. And I said it's because Martian Manhunter's probably going to be in the Justice League. Jon Stewart is probably going to be the guy he wants in the Justice League, and he doesn't want an old actor, so he wants a young guy they can build off of. So he just personality switched him. I'm not entirely upset by this. I know Mikey has stated his problems. Aaron Pierre is going to be our Jon Stewart, who was in Rebel Ridge and some other things. I haven't seen Rebel Ridge yet. It got good reviews, I heard. Kyle Chandler, known mostly for Friday Night Lights, is going to be our Hal Jordan, which I think he's a very good actor. I think he could pull it off. I'm just interested to see how it goes. Lantern started shooting today.
Oh, really?
February 11th, 2025 is the first day of production. They started shooting today.
So, nice. Well, that's cool.
The only so James had announced not too long ago that the lineup for the Justice League is going to be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, the Flash. I believe did he confirm it was
Aquaman
Barry Allen
and Hawkgirl?
No, not Aquaman.
It's going to be. Yes, Aquaman's going to be in the Justice League.
No,
they're going to do the comic accurate. I have the picture. They have. They're going to do comic accurate Aquaman.
I thought,
and they're going to do.
No, I thought it's supposed to be the exact same as the Justice League TV show. Aquaman's not in that one. I mean, he kind of is. But
they released the concept arts. Let me find the picture. They released the concept arts. He's in them because it's also going to be Hawkgirl and whatever we didn't see. Where's my recently deleted? And so oh no, you're right. Aquaman. They're going to do comic book accurate, like blonde Aquaman. He's not going to be in the Justice League. You're correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I thought it was just supposed to be.
He's in the picture. He's in the post that I'm looking at. He's just not in the lineup of Justice League.
See, that's what I thought. I'm like, it's supposed to be the exact same as the 2001 animated series. And that's why I asked. It's Wally West. Is it Barry Allen or is it Wally West?
It's Barry Allen.
Okay, that's the only deviation. Is because in the 2001 it's Wally West because
he knows that people grew up watching the CW.
Well. Yeah,
if they hear Wally West, they're going to think of that for Wally West, and they're not going to want to go see the project.
In the 2001 show, at the time in the 90s, Wally West was the Flash, so they were keeping it the same. Right. I grew up with Wally West as Flash. I grew up watching the 2001 animated show, so I've always preferred Wally West, but I don't really care that much. That's the only thing that I have actually so far enjoyed hearing is that's the lineup.
Yes.
However,
getting Hawkgirl, Jon Stewart, and Martian Manhunter, very happy to see. So we're not getting a Cyborg in that, but he has announced some sort of Titans project. We're assuming he's going to be a part of that. And then Aquaman, we know we're going to get a blonde Aquaman. Yeah. He's not going to be in the Justice League. We're going to get him at some point. And so we know that Sinestro and Martian Manhunter are both going to be in the Lantern show, and this is everything we know. We don't know much about the show.
But even in the 2001 show, right, Jon Stewart is still, an older. Well, he's not old, but he's still older. Like he's not
a
young.
Middle-aged man, but I think they want to build. They want to build up to that probably, but I think he knows that you can't start with a 40-year-old guy if this is going to be a long process. So he wants. I mean, Aaron Pierre is not young. He's like in his 30s, I think.
Well, I mean,
so I think he's going to get there because Kyle Chandler is very gray.
Is this live action or is it animated?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
that's the other thing that people need to know is he's going to be going in and out of animation throughout this universe.
Well, that was one thing I wanted to bring up in a little bit. So I'll hold that for now.
I don't dislike that because I've always found that the superhero medium works better in animation than it does in live action.
I think it works good in both, depending on what you're making. And I think James knows that it's cheaper sometimes to make animated stuff when you're just trying to make a little filler project, i.e. Creature Commandos. The fifth thing he announced. Oh, go ahead.
I'm worried about because he said that the actors are going to be consistent in the live
he
action.
did not.
Yes,
he
did.
said, I just watched the video, and I have it written down. He said, quote, usually the same actor. If Alan Tudyk is playing 5 different characters in Creature Commandos, they can't have him represent all 5 of them in live action.
Yes,
but like
Alan Tudyk is amazing.
Talking about like
David Harbour doesn't know if he's reprising his role in live action if he ever gets the shot that he has in Creature Commandos.
That's where my problem is.
But Frank Grillo is playing the same flag that he is in Superman and Creatures Commandos.
Who is David Harbour in
he's Frankenstein, I think.
He's Frankenstein.
But he said that he has no idea if he's going to get to reprise his role.
Like, if David Cornsweet is not the Superman, if this Superman is going to be in an animated series,
right?
Don't know if he will. He might not be. Whatever. If he is not the guy to voice that Superman consistently, I'm not going to be happy with this.
So we'll get into that for an animated project later.
Yeah.
Because there's a big animated project that Mikey and I have some big gripes to pull with James Gunn.
Okay. All right.
The 5th thing he announced, the Authority movie. Quick rundown, because the Authority doesn't make sense. For anyone who doesn't know, the Authority is essentially the comic book basis of the anti-Justice League. They inspired The Boys and Invincible and dark TV superhero stuff that we see now. They're supposed to be iterations of the Justice League characters, rip-offs basically, who want to save the world, but not by just fighting bad guys and stopping bad guys. They want to legitimately fix corruption and all this stuff, but it's a very dark universe, and so they like take over America for like 30 years, and then some people lead a rebellion. They can travel through the multiverse in their spaceship that they have. It's just a bunch of knockoffs, and all I'm hearing is team up movie, team up movie, team up movie.
Wait, is the Authority the one with Midnighter and Apollo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And so it's just if anyone's seen Invincible, it's the Guardians of the Globe. If anyone's seen The Boys, it's the 7. It's just knockoff iterations of the Justice League. But my question is, how is this going to tie into anything?
Who knows?
Because their backstory in the comics is very long and confusing and has been ripped off of itself by other comic creators piece and piece, and they keep getting put into different random comics. So I don't understand their purpose or how they're going to play into the story in the slightest.
Is it too hard to ask for a live action question? That's all I want to know.
Yes.
The only thing that I've seen, and this is from Wikipedia, so that this can already be thrown out, is that James Gunn said that it would be connected to the Superman film that's coming out in the summer.
Because allegedly there's like 10 people in this group, and allegedly they were supposed to be in the movie, and then I think he was like, 10 people's a lot of people to throw into this movie, because everyone was afraid that it was going to be too non-Superman focused. And so I think he kind of threw it out, and they might like end credit scene or something, but I don't think they're actually going to play a part. The engineer who is in the movie is a part of that group.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
I don't know. The Authority is there
are a bunch of nobodies
to tackle this early.
Definitely.
But if you're gonna tackle it,
this is not an order of operations. I'm just going in order of what he announced in the video. Obviously, he said this is a decade-long plan, so who knows when we're getting anything. This cannot be the next. This cannot be the next 2 projects, movies following Superman.
I think that's where we're probably having a hard time with this, is at least understanding it, is because we have Marvel, as you said, 6 movies over the course of 4 years. This is 15 projects over the course of 10?
It's a lot of projects over maybe 10 years, maybe 10 more, years. Maybe less.
That's where I'm like, the Authority is a high thing to tackle, but if you're going to tackle it, you might have to start this early. So I don't know.
My biggest issue is he did the thing that Marvel messed up with, that he was a part of. They announced like 20 projects. They're making like 10 of them because they announced them all way too early, or they delayed them indefinitely. He did something they shouldn't have done, which was announce all these projects so far ahead of time.
I agree. Continue with your list.
The next list is the Paradise Lost TV show. This is going to be an HBO Max show. It's live action. This is dealing with the island of Themyscira from Wonder Woman's origin. This is going to be very, very, very before the birth of Wonder Woman. She's not going to be a part of this. James Gunn said it's going to be dealing with the matriarchy mostly. It's going to be very Game of Thrones-esque. I'm indifferent about the show. It's not going to have Wonder Woman, so I don't see how this has any implications really on the universe, as is because nobody but Wonder Woman leaves the island.
I hope that this only stays like one season.
This has to be a one-season show. If he tries to take this to... it's a prequel
any
show.
Other
I
level,
don't see it having any implications on the universe.
Yeah.
Let's see. So there was I'm sure there probably was a comic of the same name, but I know in the 2001 show that there was a episode, I believe it was called Paradise Lost, and in that episode, the actual Justice League is in that episode, but essentially Felix Faust is able to get onto Themyscira and open a portal to Hell and have Hades come through. So they may do something like that to introduce some of the, as we know, gods and monsters. We may be
probably
able
more
to introduce
the magic, because James Gunn did say he wants to do more of the John Constantine, Zatanna, magical, supernaturally stuff that we see in like animated movies.
We may be able to open up the world
Maybe
of magic,
that's all this is just to prepare people for that.
Exactly, and we may be able to get introduced to characters like Hades and Ares and some of those other like Greek god mythology.
I just see this one literally having no effect on the main storyline.
Now, as you said earlier, because other than Wonder Woman, no one's left the island. We know of Artemis. Artemis leaves the island as well in most iterations of the comics. When she's actually
but she plays more into that god aspect of she's not a main character that influences a lot of things.
I know the 2001 show had the episode Fury, which was phenomenal, had like a woman, like an Amazon who left the island and wanted to kill all men and just have the world full of women.
But however, it doesn't sound like they're leaving the island in this show, which is my thing.
I mean, there are also iterations of how they reproduce, where they leave the island, essentially seduce men, and then come back to the island. But I mean,
the seventh thing that he announced on this 10 announcement list video he made is the Batman Brave and the Bold movie. Now, as of latest sources, this movie is scheduled to release in 2030, which is 5 years in the future. It's based on Grant Morrison's storyline, which it is impossible to find information on that specific storyline on the internet.
I can tell you about it.
Basically, it's going to be Damian Wayne, who's the child of Talia al Ghul from the League of Shadows. He grows up an assassin. Batman tries to teach him how to be a Robin. I like Damian Wayne. I think he's the best Robin, because everyone else goes to have their own superhero iterations afterwards. But we genuinely don't know anything about this movie. Andy Muschietti, the director of the It movies and The Flash, which James Gunn said he, quote, really loves, so I don't trust that, is directing the Batman Brave and the Bold movie, and the script has been pushed back multiple times.
So my only concern is, as you stated, it was with the Grant Morrison comic. In the Grant Morrison comics, it's not actually Batman or Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne does not have any until he comes back. He has no intentions of raising Damian Wayne to become a Robin. It's actually Dick Grayson who's Batman at the time. It was his decision. And then when Bruce comes back as Batman, he's just kind of like, oh, I'm kind of stuck with this.
Which is why it's a little confusing when James says that it's going to be Bruce and Damian. And based on other projects that we have coming up, we know it's not going to be Dick Grayson raising him as Batman. Next project up is the Booster Gold TV show. Booster Gold is just kind of like a fun fan service character.
Yeah.
We have our problems with this. Allegedly, Kumail Nanjiani, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, has been cast as the role of Booster Gold. If you don't know him, he plays the Bollywood guy in Eternals that goes on and becomes the famous movie star director. Without getting too political, people are upset that he looks nothing like the character, and it's one thing to make a character and then get someone who doesn't look like them necessarily, because when you have someone like Gal Gadot play Wonder Woman, who's been a white woman in all the comics, it makes sense. She's been on this Mediterranean island her whole life, so she would look like something like that.
Right.
Booster Gold, his name comes from the fact that he dons himself in all yellow. He's very blonde, and then allegedly in person who does not look like Booster Gold was cast as him. I also don't think he's very funny in general, this actor, so I don't like the casting in the first place. But James Gunn was asked flat out, is it true that Kumail was cast as Booster Gold? And his response was, the script is not quite there, the movie is not quite there, the directing is not quite there, and he said things are not quite there in maybe 7 different ways of saying that sentence and just completely avoided everything. I think he knows people are unhappy. I think it's true, and I think he's going to have to rethink this decision before they start making the show.
Yeah, I mean, that... I think this is where I get worried.
James Gunn is not one to dodge questions. That's the big thing that concerns me.
Exactly.
He will never dodge questions.
He never does. And I think the biggest thing is that Warner, like I said, when we were talking about Zack Snyder, Warner Brothers does not understand that if you want something like this to happen, you have to wait. And I think that they're trying to rush James into making decisions, and
which this casting would have been a James Gunn decision. So it's
I think all castings.
I think he could have been pressured by Warner Brothers. But then people come out and say, "Why not Glenn Powell?" Because the other thing is, Kumail's not a young guy. He's in his upper 30s, I believe.
Yeah,
we want a young blonde guy to play Booster Gold, who is always been a young blonde guy. That's all we asked for, and we want someone who's funny. Myself and a lot of people don't believe he's funny. He just doesn't fit the character. And so it's like, what's wrong with asking for some fan service?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the biggest thing right now is just, if they're going to go with this, they need to understand that backlash is going to be a problem.
They're going to get a lot of backlash. Been a
problem in Marvel, in Star Wars,
in
past DC projects, in anything. But it's going to happen.
This is an unconfirmed rumor from 6 months ago for a show that's not going to come out for 2 more years.
And it's a lot of backlash. Yeah, no, it's bad. Not that I don't think that the actor could do it. The actor clearly can do it. He played Eternals. I think he could be fine. Do I agree with the casting? No. I think that James needs to slow down. He's focused on Superman right now. They're focused on Supergirl because that's currently filming and is slated for a year from the summer.
Yep.
So this is a show. Is it a show or a movie?
Supergirl or Booster Gold?
No. The Booster Gold
show, which means it's not going to take as long to produce. It's not going to take as much money to produce. And you can kind of work the script a little differently because you have to go episode by episode. I think you got to wait. You just Booster Gold, just say, it's fine if you come out with a statement and just say, hey, we're scrapping everything right now. We're not, nothing is confirmed. Basically act like Booster Gold has just been announced and you know nothing. Yeah.
As much as I
fine with that and see where it goes.
As much as I like Booster Gold, I just cannot foresee him being an entire TV show by himself.
Which, this could be another show that really has nothing to do with the main series. And he's just kind of living life.
So, again,
a lot of people.
I love Booster Gold as a character. He's actually one of my favorite characters. If you want to give him a show, then you need to give him a show with him and Ted Kord as Blue Beetle, right? The Booster Gold Blue Beetle series, right? They work well together, but Booster Gold himself, I just don't feel like he works very well as a standalone series. He could probably
do also a fair criticism.
Movie. He could do well in a standalone movie, an origin movie for himself. But if you're going to give him an entire show,
well, think about who's making the show. It's going to be an HBO Max show, so it's going to be 6 to 8 episodes. They're going to be 40 to 50 minutes long each.
Still, though, that's just too much time for a character like Booster Gold for him to be by himself.
Well, we said the same thing about Peacemaker, and I both agree and disagree that the show was too much or too little. I think he had plenty of time in... I don't love Peacemaker. I think he really shared his time in Suicide Squad. I don't hate that he got a show.
The only thing with Peacemaker, though, is that Peacemaker didn't really have much that you had to, already, right? They kind of had the outline of the characters, so at that point it was up to really James to kind of...
I don't think the show's going to be an origin story for Booster Gold because he said he's not doing origin stories.
Still,
is my
though,
thing.
I think
so I think it'll be fine.
I just think that if you were going to do a Booster Gold show, the better bet would have been Booster Gold and Blue Beetle,
which is not going to happen because Zolo Maridueña is reprising his role.
Yeah, but I mean, Ted Kord and Blue Beetle still exists the same time as.
They're not going to make 2 Blue Beetles. They won't do it.
No,
I don't know why they don't though. I mean, because they
because
every iteration of the
you're making a universe for the you're not making a DC animated Justice League show. You're making the average fan to get them into the theaters or to log on to Max. The average fan is going to go, I thought that kid was playing Blue Beetle. He's going to watch this other person, and then the Blue Beetle project's eventually going to come out. He's going to go, why are there 2 Blue Beetles?
I didn't watch the Blue Beetle movie, but did they not mention Ted Kord at all?
No, because it's supposed to be an independent project.
That's stupid. They really should have introduced Ted Kord, maybe even had him in the movie or have him in a future project. That way you can still introduce... Because
it was supposed to be a standalone project.
In the DC universe. He's huge. He really is the one who trains... what's his name again? I never remember the...
Jaime?
Jaime, yeah. There he is. You know, he trains Jaime on how to use the Scarab because it wasn't Ted Kord who used the Scarab, it was the Blue Beetle prior
But remember,
to him.
We're not trying to please like the people that know who this guy is. We're trying to get people into theaters, like the average person.
Yeah, it comes down to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, well, again, you say average person, yet other than relatively, who fans know who the character is. No one knows who Booster Gold is. He's a very obscure character.
Which is why it's not a movie. We just need people to get on Max. We don't need people to go in theaters.
Well, exactly. So there's nothing against Austin Brayden and Ted Kord.
But Blue Beetle is going to have his own projects in the future with that younger character. Yeah. They're not doing origin stories, so there's no reason to introduce him.
You can still have Ted
We're
Kord.
We're just going to go in circles with this.
Ted Kord is still an important character.
Mikey, just because you want something doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I don't know why you wouldn't just bring him in. It does not make any sense of why you would bring in a character like Booster Gold, who honestly, as much as I love the character, does not work as a standalone character.
You don't know that. He hasn't had a standalone project yet, so we'll have to see.
All right, what else do we got on the list?
Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which you previously mentioned.
Yeah.
The Woman of Tomorrow story does not entirely sound like a solid movie. I looked into the comics for it. Supergirl, as James Gunn said, is going to be jaded because she's, quote, seen some shit. She's not going to be Melissa Benoit's CW happy-go-lucky Supergirl. She's going to be a very jaded character. She's seen the destruction of her planet and her people. The story is this alien girl who's having her planet and race destroyed comes and meets her. Said alien girl is going to go on a revenge tour. Supergirl just decides to go along with her. Krypto's going to be a part of the story somehow. And then our villains are going to be Lobo, who's going to be played by Jason Momoa, which I'm excited for. But Lobo's a big villain, so this can't be a one-and-done guy. Nope. And then we also have... what is his name? I wrote it down somewhere. A Creme of the Yellow Hills, which is a magical pirate / assassin / thief / Robin Hood archer guy. I don't really understand who he is. He's just some random... He's like a Whiplash from Iron Man 2. He's just some random guy that they throw out there and they're like, go be the villain of this story.
Whiplash is significantly more popular than whoever the hell this guy is.
But that's what I'm saying. He's just some random guy that they throw out for a movie, and they're like, "Go be the villain of this story."
I don't know. He had one comic book appearance, one comic arc appearance, and it was in DC Rebirth, if I remember correctly.
In the Woman of Tomorrow story,
whatever the hell the big thing after Rebirth was, but it was just kind of like.
It just seems like this is just going to be a movie that they're making for a character that's going to be a part of future movies, but we shouldn't really expect much. It kind of seems like,
right.
And then the final thing was a Swamp Thing horror movie. I don't know how I feel about that because
did you mention Clayface?
Because we now know they are making a Clayface in the DCU horror movie. This is not an Elseworlds project. It's in the DCU. They're eyeing James Watkins, who just made the Speak No Evil movie with James McAvoy, to direct this Clayface horror movie. So we have 2 monster horror movies I don't know how I feel about this.
Do you see when Clayface is supposed to release?
We have no news on it. They haven't. I don't even think they've made a script for it yet. They just are eyeing that specific director to possibly make it.
Again, according to Wikipedia, it says that the screenwriter is Mike Flanagan.
That's a familiar name. I should know.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. What is
take to Google. You keep talking. I'll take to Google.
He has done.
He's done The Haunting of Hill House, which I know people love.
Midnight
Black
Mass.
Manor, Doctor
The Midnight
Sleep.
Clown, The Fall of the House of Usher.
Okay, so he's made some good horror stuff.
Doctor Sleep. Yeah, so he's made horror movies. In this, it says that the date of release, which I find this to be hilarious, September 11th, 2026.
That ain't happening.
No.
Maybe because you can make because this can be like a 90-minute project. If they hurry up and make a script, they can release it by then.
Well, I'm also... There's two things that bother me with this. One, the fact that it says 2026, and two, the fact that it says September 11th.
Yeah, without getting into that.
25th anniversary break.
Instead of not getting into anything, but the fact that it says September 11th,
that just might be a Thursday.
They
might.
No. Well, it could be.
They're probably going to bump it a week back.
I think it's probably going to end up that way. But in this case, Clay. I don't understand how you have a date for Clayface that says in a year and a half, basically at this point.
I think this is going to be a very quick produced movie, 90 minutes long.
Do you think it'll be like Werewolf by Night?
Yeah.
I don't really know why.
Do you think it's going to be a movie released on Max?
No, this will be a theater movie. I think everything is going to be a theater movie and all the shows are going to be Max. I don't think anything is going to... I think every movie is going to go into theaters.
I don't see why you would make a Clayface standalone movie either.
It's supposed to be a horror movie. This is one of the things, even with the Swamp Thing, Swamp Thing
makes more
sense,
quote, though.
He's not going to be directly he's going to influence the larger picture of the DCU, but he's not going to be directly intertwined with anything. I think we're going to see John Constantine and Zatanna eventually get introduced through that movie, which is why I think we have heard nothing, because James currently has no idea what the future of this universe is. He just wants to get to that point eventually.
That, and then also James Mangold's already signed on to like 8 other things.
James Mangold's supposed to be making the Swamp Thing movie, but even that is shaky. He might drop out like any day now because there's no news. Because
there's also the Star Wars movie he's doing, which still has no news. Which is a beast on its own because it's supposed to be like 100,000 years before the Phantom Menace.
There's a lot going on with James Mangold's life.
But James Mangold has like, and he always wants to make new movies of new things. He just had a complete unknown, so many other things. I have another just random kind of point. Gunn did confirm that there are plans. I want to get your opinion on this. That there are plans to have video games be a part of the DCU story. So this is where I then go.
I know he said he wanted video games in the DCU directly related. I don't know if he said... I don't remember seeing anything about directly part of the story.
He said that it would bridge gaps between films and series.
I don't like that.
I don't like... Well, I don't like that because video games take so long.
That is also true.
Video games take forever to make.
If you want to go by the market audience too, it's movies, TV shows, because you have to have one streaming service to watch it.
Games.
Video games is all the way down here.
Yeah, no. I think there's that I argue
idea.
With. But then also, Warner Brothers sucks at making video games. We just
of late, yes. We had
Gotham Knights, which I have not played, but from you guys, it seems like it's okay.
Mikey likes it. I think it's boring.
It's fine.
It obviously flopped for a reason.
I've seen things
Kill
that
the
it's
Suicide
just
Squad.
Fine. Then
Horrible.
you have Kill the Suicide Squad or Kill the Justice League, which is terrible.
Yeah. You have the Wonder Woman game that got canceled. An Arkham game that may or may not ever happen. A fifth Arkham game. I think it's going to
be delayed for a while.
I don't think it's ever going to happen because I don't think anybody wants a legit non-Kevin Conroy Arkham Batman game.
True.
I won't.
Like I said, the Wonder Woman game got delayed. I don't trust this idea. I think like I said, we talk about James Gunn being too creative for his own good. This is not a good idea.
He said that he expects the games to take around 4 years to make. Warner Brothers Games was developing video games for the DCU by January 24th.
We were supposed to have a John Constantine game coming out soon. That got scrapped.
I don't know how they're going to be able to make games that interweave between films and series when you don't even know what half these films and
not a
series
good
are going to be
idea.
about. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that books are
fine.
Books are a fine understanding to bridge gaps, because I'm just going to use my reference that I have here. I have books like this.
Yes.
Thrawn Ascendancy, that just gives me more information about Thrawn. But that's because I care about the character.
Matt Reeves' The Batman
Thrawn.
had a novelization that introduced a lot of background information, like why his Batmobile is the way it is, because he does street racing when he was younger, and so he knows how to like build cars and stuff. That's fine. Do not make video games to bridge the gaps. Go make animated shows that don't.
Better idea.
Make books or make animated shows that don't perform the best. Do not make video games to bridge gaps. It's a terrible idea. Because the other thing is, more expensive than going to see a movie is buying a video game. That's going to be a $60 gap. I'm going to wait to watch someone play it on YouTube when it comes out, if it's not the best thing in the world.
No, I agree. Is there anything else we have?
That is everything from that 10-movie list.
Okay.
Next up, we talked about Clayface. Luca Guadagnino, known for movies like Queer that just came out, or Bones and All, or Challengers.
Yeah.
He and Daniel Craig are allegedly eyeing a Sergeant Rock movie. Said movie is allegedly eyeing Mikey Madison from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Honora to also be a part of it. Why do we need a Sergeant Rock movie?
Isn't Sergeant Rock going to be in season 2 of Peacemaker?
Also, yes.
So,
but this is supposed to be like a war movie or something, like a DC war movie.
Is it a past movie? Like, is it explaining his past?
It might explain part of G.I. Robot's character.
Why is this the director for the movie? Why is Daniel Craig going to play him?
Why is Michael Madsen in it?
Mikey Madison.
Mikey Madison? Who the hell is that?
She is one of the Manson girls in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And she's the lead actress in Honora. She just got nominated for an Oscar for that. She's just going to be someone in it. But I don't know why Daniel Craig is currently the front runner when Luca... He doesn't make those kind of movies. He makes very push-a-message kind of romancy. They're always romancy movies.
Right.
This is a war movie in a superhero universe. Why?
Maybe G.I. Robot and Sergeant Rock fall in love.
I don't know. I guess.
Maybe it's a romance movie that's about war, just like how Challengers is a romance movie that's about tennis.
I hope not. I don't even know why we need the movie.
Maybe it's.
I don't know why this character deserves a movie.
Maybe.
Yeah, out of all DC characters, I don't see why this
doesn't make sense to me. In my opinion, it's a waste of money and time.
Maybe a high-ranking German officer in World War II and G.I. Robot fall in love, and Sergeant Rock has to reprogram.
Especially because this movie sounds like it's going to come out before we get Batman: Brave and the Bold. Stop. Yeah, that's crazy. Stop with the unnecessary projects, James.
I think that
we don't.
I think the DCU may be even shorter lived than the DCEU, to be completely honest with you.
We're going to flip a coin. It's like the coin of fate. And heads, this movie survives as long as the MCU. Tails, this thing goes as long, if not shorter, than Zack Snyder's universe. Joey, go ahead. Triangle of fairness.
All right. Heads, it lives.
Heads, it lives. Tails, it fails.
Heads, it lives.
Okay.
Best 2 out of 3. Best 2 out of 3.
No. So it seems like we're going to get some mediocre random projects like the Sergeant Rock one.
No.
Okay, whatever.
Tails, it's dead.
Okay, there we go. It's dead. Everybody jump off ship. Don't go see Superman. Other news that we have for the DCU. Zolo Mariduena, the Blue Beetle from the Zack Snyder universe, he's reprising his role. He's getting an animated project that he just said is set to release next year in 2026. And then eventually we're going to build the Titans. That has been confirmed. The Teen Titans.
But that's the question. Are we building the Teen Titans or are we building the Titans?
Teen Titans. Because we had a whole conversation about this and you threw a fit.
Yeah.
We're going to get the Teen Titans. It's going to be him, and then allegedly the rest of the list is Starfire, Damian Wayne, Beast Boy, Raven, and either Cyborg or Nightwing, but not both.
Well, because
we weren't going to get a Kid Flash, and you weren't happy about that. And then
my problem is, why would we have like Nightwing in with the Teen Titans? Why would we have Starfire in with the Teen Titans?
Because they were going to be younger, and
but
it's basically going to be Teen Titans Go.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Though, but if we have Damian Wayne in there, then there's no point of having characters like Starfire and Nightwing, right? Because those two, I mean, you can make the argument that, hey,
it depends on the iteration. We have Teen Titans Go where they're younger. We have the DC animated movies where Nightwing and Starfire are older and in a relationship.
But if you have Damian Wayne, then Starfire has to be older because she has to be the same age as Dick Grayson.
She doesn't have to be. They can do whatever they want.
If they do, then I will be pissed, and I will find James Gunn himself, and I will kill him.
If
we
Raven's
will mute that part, actually.
All right, let's
edit that part out. But Joey,
if Raven's going to be a part of the Teen Titans, it's going to be a Damian Wayne-Raven relationship. They're not going to have Starfire be the love interest.
You already announced Beast Boy, right? It doesn't really, in my opinion, make sense to do that.
Yeah, but as of later iterations, I think Beast Boy has been a very independent individual. I think they've kept the Raven thing going.
I don't really know why you have all
new
these
comics.
To me, having all these younger characters, like these,
when I say teen, I'm not talking about like 13-year-olds. I think we're going to get like 17, 18-year-olds.
No, I get that, but my frustration is, okay, you have like Jon Stewart's going to be younger. I'm sure Hawkgirl's going to be like
he's going to be young, but not younger. Hawkgirl is very young. We've seen her
younger than what he usually is. Younger than what they usually are.
In the Superman trailer, she is young.
Yeah, and Superman's going to be younger than what he usually is. So it doesn't really make much sense to have all these characters that aren't like young.
You have to start young if you're going to build a universe. You can't start.
But if you're doing that, why the hell are you bringing Damian Wayne in the first fucking Batman movie? It doesn't make sense.
Because they need to start with him.
No, what you should do is if you're trying.
We're not doing origin stories. No, Mikey, pause because this is
origin story.
Stop talking.
No. Here's the thing.
Seriously, because this is where they're going to go. Remember the dynamic duo project.
You're trying to have this longevity of characters, and then you just. Oh yeah, here's the youngest Robin. Okay, where's the longevity? You can introduce him later.
Because they're making dynamic duo, which none of us are excited for.
Oh my gosh!
For those who don't know, Dynamic Duo is a Dick Grayson, Jason Todd team-up movie. He's Nightwing already, and he's Red Hood already. Here's the problem with it. It is it's not claymation, it's not animation. It is like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. They're all like marionette. I can't think of that movie where they're all kind of like ventriloquist puppets, and they're like super soldiers or something. In the Matt Damon, it's gonna be like that.
See, that is not my problem with the movie.
Why is that Let me find the picture of the studio so everyone can see.
That is not my main problem with the movie. My main problem with it is the fact that we know who Red Hood is. We understand it. There has not been a mainstream movie, TV show that explains who Red Hood is, why he's become who he is, who he was.
Yeah, there is.
Anything like that.
It's called Batman Under the Red Hood, and Mikey's going to yell at you for it.
No. Here's the thing.
Not really mainstream.
It's a great movie, but it's not mainstream.
No, that is fair. Not. Titans. That's what they're going to bank off is the Titans show. The CW
That's a terrible way to go with.
It is.
Titans is a terrible show. And honestly, I can argue to a lot of people that the Flash, the CW Flash, is not a mainstream television show.
I would argue it is.
I think the first few seasons
that's the most mainstream of the CW superhero shows.
Oh yeah, it is. It's the most mainstream out of all of them. However, it was only the first 3-4 seasons. After that, it fell off the face of the earth. So that's where I go. I can't say that anything from the CW people are going to understand, especially unless you're us.
So, but here's my thing: is if you do the Jason Todd origin story, then you have to bring in a Joker super early on.
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to stay away from bringing in household names like that for a little while. He wants to set stuff up.
And I'm fine with that because I like the Joker.
So you
and I
have
definitely
to
think
skip.
We've been getting a lot more.
So you have to skip some of the origins, which I understand.
Yeah.
So it's kind of bad quality.
Well, that's where I think you need books.
Well, my frustration is he's refusing to do
if you can tell this weird claymation puppet ventriloquist, we're going to get a Jason Todd, Dick Grayson team-up in ventriloquist-style animation.
Well, my frustration is
what the hell is that? Nobody wants that.
He's refusing to do origin stories, yet he's bringing these characters in that need origin stories.
Not all of them do.
Not all of them, but a lot of them.
I think we're going to get a Damian. I think Batman Brave and the Bold will serve as a Damian Wayne origin.
Damian needs an origin story. Jason Todd needs an origin story.
It's going to be a Damian origin.
Booster Gold needs an origin
That's fine. If Brave and Bold is going to be a Damian origin story, I'm fine with that.
I guarantee
I am not fine with them going into Dynamic Duo and just setting up Red Hood and being like, oh yeah, here he is. Like, no.
I think Dynamic Duo is genuinely going to be one of the worst superhero movies of all time, specifically because of the medium they're using to tell it. It's a horrible decision.
I don't. Oh, go on, Joy.
No. Please go ahead.
I'm saying I understand if you're gonna skip origin stories for characters like Batman and Superman, but characters like Red Hood, Booster Gold, and Damian Wayne need one.
I think he believes that Nightwing and Red Hood have had their times in the video games and shows enough that he doesn't need to do
Nightwing,
it.
Yes. Red Hood, no.
Which I understand, because if he wants Damian Wayne to be in the first Batman movie, you can't go back and make origin stories in the future.
If he... Here's what I'll say. If he brings up and says that the Jason Todd that we see in Dynamic Duo is heavily based off of Batman
Under the Red Hood or something, that's fine.
Yeah, then you know what? I will say fine, but you need, this is maybe just me nitpicking. Max needs to have Batman Under the Red Hood under their library in that time frame.
Well, I mean, you could easily do something. I don't know why James hasn't thought of it. Of all the things that he hasn't done, why not just do an animated anthology show about explaining some of those characters?
Like a what if type series, which he should have done instead of giving us
Marvel. I think it's called Marvel Legends, where they pick out, and it's like a 15-minute episode, and it's everything that explains. I agree. I think that would not be a terrible idea either.
But I think he knows that he can't go pull from Under the Red Hood and then the CW show, because then everyone's going to be confused as to the basic people are going to be too confused because there's no source material from the DCU to pull from.
Right.
I understand why he's skipping origin stories. Like I said, this medium is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Other things. Harry Goodwin, who was most famously and really only his main role in the Gentleman show based off the Gentleman movie that was on Netflix, he is going to be Green Arrow, allegedly. He's going to cameo in season 2 of Peacemaker as his debut. I don't know why he's showing up in Peacemaker. I like that we're getting an Arrow. He looks exactly like the comic, an animated Green Arrow. I like we're getting a Green Arrow comeback. I don't know why he's being shown in Peacemaker.
I mean, his I wouldn't say his motives are similar to Peacemaker, but his attitude.
It depends. If we go comic accurate, we're gonna get a more quippy, and we're gonna get the opposite of Stephen Amell. We're gonna get a very quippy, humorous guy.
True.
We're gonna get a boxing glove Arrow, which is why I don't really know why he's in Peacemaker, which is supposed to be not dark humor, but stuff you wouldn't want your parents watching.
I think he would work in a Peacemaker.
If it's just a cameo, I'm fine with it.
And the Dynamic Duo thing was announced last January. I think I have written down. It's supposed to start production
about a year ago.
By the end of the year. I think it's supposed to have started production by the end of this year. I'm terrified for this project.
It's fine. We flipped the coin anyway. It's burning to the ground.
Yeah.
And then the final thing that I have is that Andy Serkis was doing some sort of presser recently for something, and they said, hey, do you ever get tired of people asking you about the Batman, because Matt Reeves seemingly can't finish a script because he keeps getting it delayed, and he keeps working on other things. Matt Reeves wrote that Caped Crusader show. He's working on other DCU projects like this Dynamic Duo thing.
I was going to say, he's working on Dynamic Duo, and I think he's working on Clayface?
Yes. He needs to stick to one project, finish a script. That being said, Andy Serkis did say that Matt Reeves told him the entirety of the story, and Andy Serkis is very excited and wishes he could have started working on this project already. Matt Reeves needs to hurry up and finish this project.
Isn't it 2027?
I'm not one to push and be like, oh, you need to put out a project and then like sacrifice quality.
No, but
this is ridiculous. It has been a long time since the first Batman movie has come out.
22, right?
Yes, and he literally has not been working on anything else other than the Caped Crusader show.
3 years and we have nothing.
Yeah,
and it's not going to come out for another 2 years at best.
I'm going to sum it up with what you're saying. I personally have no faith in the James Gunn DCU. But I guess we'll see how things
to say you have zero faith is a bold declaration.
I'm kind of leaning with him because here's the thing. There's so much that they're trying to do without Origin.
Exactly.
In which I don't really trust.
I think his kickstart is going to be good. I think Lanterns will be good and Superman will be good. It's just, can he carry an acceptable amount of quality to the bigger name projects? By the time we get to Batman, that's going to be 4 years down the future, 5 years down the future. Can he continue quality till we hit another household name? That worries me. I think the kickstart will be fine.
All right, I agree. So that is going to wrap up our big DC discussion. This was definitely one topic that we were looking forward to because there's a lot of emotional investment, as we haven't really been able to get a lot of DC stuff in. And
it's a lot of us just talking out of our butt because nothing has come to fruition.
True.
It's all just people saying things about people saying things.
Exactly.
Empty promises so far.
I hope to be wrong. I would love for a lot of
if
cool
James Gunn
things to come
proves
out
me
of this.
wrong, I will be excessively happy.
Exactly. I completely agree. So with that's going to wrap our DC discussion, and we're going to get into our game. Mike lost last week to me in a two connection game. It was Megan Fox to Ethan Hawke. I got it in 2. So now Brayden is back to face up against me. Mike came up with the connection. Let's go. If you don't know the rules of connection, go back to the first episode, watch that, and then come back here. We'll get started.
Good luck. It's Hugh Jackman to Patrick Swayze.
All right, so Hugh Jackman, Patrick Swayze. It looks like I have been dethroned. I have not been able to come up with one that was less than what Brayden has. So I will give mine first, and then Brayden can explain his. So I have Hugh Jackman in Flushed Away with Kate Winslet.
Good pull.
Kate Winslet is in Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio, who is in The Great Gatsby with Tobey Maguire, who is in Tropic Thunder with Tom Cruise, who is in The Outsiders with Patrick Swayze. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 movies, 5 points, 5 connections.
Okay. I did it in 3 movies. Patrick Swayze is in Donnie Darko with Jake Gyllenhaal, who is in a movie with Anne Hathaway called Love and Other Drugs.
Dang it.
Anne Hathaway is in Les Miserables with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I had originally started with Hugh Jackman in Les Miserables, and I tried to go the Russell Crowe route, and then I somehow tried to branch Anne Hathaway and Russell Crowe from opposite directions, and I was like, wait a minute, I can just cut 5 movies off of my list.
Well, because I was trying to think of actors, and this is where I normally have gone, is actors or actresses, that are just like randomly in films.
Yeah.
Yep. Like Patrick Swayze and Donnie Darko.
like Patrick Swayze and Donnie Darko. And that's kind of where I went with the Tobey Maguire in Tropic Thunder, because he's in it, but it's like really random and it's like not that long. And so I was like, ooh, maybe I could connect it from Tobey Maguire to Hugh Jackman. There might be a smaller connection that I'm missing. If we were allowed to use superhero movies, I think I could make it in 3.
So who did you say was in Tropic Thunder with Tobey Maguire? Like, to get it to Tobey Maguire?
Tom Cruise.
Not Tropic Thunder, but Great Gatsby. Leo?
Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah.
Is Leo and Tom Cruise not in a movie together?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
I don't believe so.
I genuinely don't think they share a movie.
I
Two
know,
very different worlds of acting.
I've thought of that as well.
Still, though,
I don't think they are.
Did be something together. But anyway. So.
Yep. So 5 points for me. Brayden had 3. So he has dethroned me. So now on next week's episode, Mike will face off against Brayden for the first time. I will have the connection, and we will see where it takes him from there. But that is... what?
To a degree, you are still technically in lead. You have the longest win streak of 2 wins.
Of 2 whole wins.
Two
whole wins. True. So we'll see. But that is going to do it for our discussion on DC topics. Be sure to stay tuned next week for more episodes of Stay Tuned, where who knows what we're going to be talking about. So yeah, any final comments from you guys?
Nope. Don't do it.
All right. Well,
I don't have any random out of pocket.
Make sure to stay tuned.